You know, the biggest lie going around in the e-commerce space right now is that you need to find that one winning creative to scale. But I'm gonna be honest with you, that's a trap. You don't need a viral video, you actually need to start thinking like a hedge fund. And I see this constantly with e-commerce founders. You are probably sitting there at 2 a.m. just nervously refreshing your Shopify dashboard, watching your Meta Advantage Plus campaigns slowly eat away your margins, and then panic spend on random TikTok UGCs and just hoping something sticks. Now, if that sounds like you right now, then take a deep breath. Because in the next few minutes, I want to walk you through something called the 70-20-10 matrix. It's a simple mathematical framework that will instantly shift you out of that creative gambler's mindset and turn you into an actual portfolio manager, so you can scale up your spend with zero emotional volatility. And look, we have to get this dialed in fast, because if you keep treating these ad platforms like slot machines, the next time the algorithm shifts, it won't just hike up your CPAs. It will have the possibility to completely wipe your cash flow before you even see it coming. By the way, I'm Péter Fiszabolcs and I run Ads and Leads. And to actually build out this matrix and protect that cash flow, we have to start with the foundation. And the first bucket of the matrix is where exactly 70% of your budget lives. We call this the core. The massive benefit here is that once this bucket is dialed in, it completely covers your overhead and funds all of your future growth. But the mistake I see almost everyone make is misunderstanding what actually belongs in this bucket. So, what exactly earns the right to take up 70% of your spend? Well, it's the boring, predictable, bulletproof revenue. We are talking about your battle-tested Meta Advantage Plus campaigns, using the specific creatives and angles that already hit your target CPAs. Now, here is where the problem usually starts. When the sales naturally dip for a random 48-hour window, the human nature kicks in. You panic. You dive back into your ads manager, you start tweaking the daily budget, messing with the copy, and suddenly you force the algorithm to completely reset its learning phase. That emotional reaction, it is what exactly tanks your profit margins and triggers a massive CPA spike that you were trying to avoid in the first place. Now, you can fix this with a ruthless isolation. You take those proven winners, you lock them inside the 70% allocation, and you leave them completely alone. You let the machine learning do its job. This bucket is not for testing, it's your financial heartbeat. By treating this 70% as an untouchable asset, you guarantee a stable, predictable revenue. You can finally stop waking up in cold sweat, stressing over your return on ad spend fluctuation. But the reality is, this steady heartbeat keeps your business alive. But it definitely doesn't double your market share. To actually scale up and capture new grounds without breaking the machine, we have to talk about how you deploy the next 20%, which is where the real growth actually happens. So, the 70% is your heartbeat. This next 20% is your so-called scaling horizon. This is where you actually go out and steal market share from your competitors. And the huge benefit here is that it gives you absolute freedom to expand aggressively. Because you know, even if this new channel completely flops, you only risked 20% and your core business is perfectly safe. But how do you push for this new growth without just setting your cash on fire? Because usually when founders decide it's time to scale, they just dump more budget straight into their core meta campaigns. And you know exactly what happens next. You hit the scaling penalty. Your CPA skyrocket because you are forcing the algorithm to find new people in an already exhausted audience pool. Or even worse, you try testing new channels, but you panic and shut it down after just 3 days because it didn't instantly match your return on ad spend. And the fix here is a calculated horizontal expansion. You take this new 20% and you deploy it strictly into high probability emerging opportunities. Let's look at an example. For clothing or makeup brands right now, I'm talking about validating TikTok shops or jumping on those new Meta in-stream live shopping ads that just rolled out. And I actually made a video about this feature where I explain this more in depth, which you can watch right after this if you are interested in learning more about that. But basically you isolate this budget. So these new campaigns have the actual oxygen they need to exit the learning phase without the pressure of having to cover this week's payroll. Now, because this money is safely ring-fenced, you can afford to be patient. And when one of these 20% bets finally clicks, it graduates. It moves up and becomes part of your 70% core, permanently raising your baseline revenue. So, now you have the bulletproof stability and the calculated growth. But honestly, if you stop there, your brand will eventually become obsolete. To stay completely untouchable in this market, we have to talk about how you actually spend that final 10%, which is the most chaotic, but arguably the most important piece in the entire matrix. So here we are at the final 10%. We call this the Asymmetric lab. And the massive benefit of this tiny allocation is that the one thing that keeps you ahead of the market, allowing you to discover your next major breakthrough before your competitors even know what hit them. But what exactly belongs in this bucket where failure is the most likely outcome? And the problem is that most brands are terrified of looking unprofessional, so they play it safe. They just keep paying the same influencers for the exact same high production UGC that everyone else is running. But the cost of paying it safe is you becoming a commodity. You blend right into the feed and eventually the algorithm just going to ignore you because everyone is scrolling right past you. So the mechanical fix is pure unhinged experimentation. You take this 10% and you run things that completely break the rules. This is where you test radically different angles. This is where you strip completely away the expensive production value. Let's say you run bizarre hooks, totally different placements, and concept that's actually making you a little bit uncomfortable. But you have to treat this 10% like venture capital. You should actually expect 9 out of 10 of these weird tests to completely fail. But when that one crazy experiment hits, it hits so hard it completely redefines your entire strategy. Suddenly that weird 10% test graduates all the way up to your 70% core. And you just unlocked a brand new vein of cheap acquisition that your competitors can't even copy yet. So, when you zoom out, this whole matrix isn't just a budgeting trick, it's a living ecosystem. Your chaotic 10% experiments eventually feed into your 20% growth pipeline, and those successful campaigns eventually graduate into the 70% core, which funds the entire machine. And when that happens, you will stop gambling and finally build an ad account that actually builds your company's wealth. Now, just imagine logging into your Shopify dashboard tomorrow morning and knowing exactly where every single dollar is going, without that knot in your stomach, worrying if a random meta update is about to wipe out your entire cash flow. Now, that peace of mind is exactly what we built for you. At Ads and Leads, we work with e-commerce founders to strip away all that emotional decision making and install this exact growth engine for you. So, if you are ready to stop bleeding margin and actually scale with predictability, then feel free to click the link in the description and book a call with my team and me. We will look under the hood of your current setup, pinpoint exactly where the leaking cash are, and map out the custom 70-20-10 matrix for your brand. But you need to lock this in fast, as I said in the beginning, because every day you keep treating these platforms as a slot machine is another day that you leave your entire cash flow completely exposed to the algorithm. So, hit the link in the description, grab a time that works for you, and stop gambling with your budget.